Good morning, and welcome back to the first stage here at ETH Barcelona. I'd like to introduce to you Tamara Helenius from the Common Stack, and she'll be presenting the solarpunk future beyond market and state. Welcome.
Thank you for coming. I understand 10:50 a.m. is very early in Barcelona, so I appreciate the extra effort it took to get everyone here. What you'll hear in the next 20 minutes will, I hope, start you thinking in a different way, thinking like a commoner. I'm going to start off a little unconventionally, but I want you to trust me. Close your eyes, you two on the live stream. I'm going to say a word, and I want you to capture the first image that comes into your mind when I say this word. The word is profit. Open your eyes. What images did you see? Anybody? Number go up. Cash, dollar sign. So it was, in fact, something like this. This is, in fact, one of the first images that Google returns when you search for profit. But I know my audience. It was probably something like this. Degen to regen, right? Excuse me. Or could it have been something like this? Ecological profit, biodiversity, healthy ecosystems, healthy environments. Or something like this. Social and cultural profit, the value we get with indigenous and local cultures in our society. Generational profit. Cultural profit. If you are in this conference, you know what I mean by solarpunk. For the benefit of those who may be watching at home, solarpunk is the ecological and human-centric vision of the future, an option we still have. When we think of profit in terms greater than what the market will pay for it, we move in the direction of solarpunk, the ecological and human prosperity. We see profit in ways that reinforce principles of sustainability, environmental impact, and cultural knowledge, and community solidarity. If we're successful, the word profit associated with monetary gain may be an archaic relic of the past. Does anyone see this happening with our current markets and states?
No.
There is too much incentive for them to do exactly the opposite, to extract value and create commodities of natural resources. These images are from 250 years apart, but they have something in common. One word: enclosures. On the left, it represents the Enclosure Act of 1773, which enabled nobles to enclose land, removing the rights of commoners to use that land. Nobles claimed the land and made it private. They profited from the natural resources, wood, fresh water, and they profited from hunting. Before the enclosure, this land provided resources for local villages. The wood they used to create fires in their homes and to build homes, and they used the area for agriculture. On the right is San Bernardino National Forest. Some facts. Nestle, since the 1800s, had permission from the U.S. Forest Service to bottle water from a creek in San Bernardino National Forest. The U.S. Forest Service did not monitor the extraction. California state regulators conducted a 2-year study and reported that Nestle was extracting over 60 million gallons of fresh water, and they may have only had the right to extract 8. But that's not the biggest scandal. Californians desperately needed this water for themselves. Nestle Water's worldwide revenue, about $8 billion per year. Do you know what they paid for the right to extract the water? An annual rate of $524. This is what modern enclosures look like. Corporations economically benefit from expropriation and commercialization of shared resource, usually in collusion with governments. This is a famous protest poem from the 17th century, and it's important because enclosures of the commons didn't go without protest. The expansion, exploitation, and extraction of resources, of shared resources, was not inevitable, and there could have been a different path taken. States are failing us. States are enablers for modern markets. They enable enclosures, extractions, and exclusion. Nestle was enabled by the US federal government to find spectacular gains from the extraction of fresh water. Markets benefit from governments providing them with free or cheap resources. Public forests, minerals, airwaves, and other public resources. On the left is corporate personhood versus natural personhood. Corporate personhoods outspend, outlobby, and outmaneuver natural persons. They have war chests of trillions of dollars. This means that the interests of corporations supersede the interests of people, and that representational democracy is representing corporations better than they're representing the people. On the right, it's not surprising when authoritarian regimes freeze or seize the financial assets of those that criticize them. But it is surprising when Canada does. Financial exclusion gives the states God powers over their citizens, and in some cases, over the larger macroeconomy. Markets are failing us, states are failing us. So what choice do we have? Words have power, and these 4 words, beyond markets and states, cast a spell over me. The first time I heard it, I thought, wait, we can do that? There's something beyond markets and states, there's an alternative? And it's hard to even imagine something beyond the duopoly of markets and states. Even thinking of profit as non-monetary feels to us non-intuitive. So, to do it, we first need to escape the mindset of market-based economies and cultures to retrain your brain. I first came across these words in a collection of essays by David Bollier and Silke Helfrich. The essays is The Wealth of the Commons, A World Beyond States and Markets, collection of essays. David and Silke are commons academics, activists, and legends. But before them, there was Elinor Ostrom. She published an academic paper called Beyond Markets and States, Polycentric Governance of Complex Economic Systems. And so what lays beyond markets and states? This is Elinor Ostrom. And she's someone that opened that door for us. She opened a door to show us an answer. Ostrom received the Nobel Prize in Economics. The official prize motivation read, for her analysis of economic governance, especially the commons. Essentially, she used empirical evidence to prove that humans can cooperate with each other without private market or government intervention. Can you imagine anything more ironic than winning a Nobel Prize in economics for proving that humans can coordinate with each other? Ordinary people governing shared resources all by themselves? What'll it take? Retrain your brain to see beyond markets and states. Elinor Ostrom conducted meticulous field research into existing commons. From the mounds of empirical data she collected, she derived 8 principles. And these principles were all evident in longer-term sustainable commons. It's these 8 principles that the Commons Stack have weaved into our cultural build protocols for commons. Before her work, the tragedy of the commons was conventional wisdom, and it remains one of the most durable myths of our times. But what is a commons? Very simply, a commons is a resource plus a commodity and a set of rules. The rules are social protocols for conduct in the commons. And a commons does not exist with just one or two of these. The resource, an active community, and the rules together create sustainable commons. In a commons, the community treats a resource as a shared wealth. In a commons, members talk about stewardship of the commons as opposed to ownership. There's no commons without commoning, the active participation of a community. Thanks to the groundbreaking work of Elinor Ostrom, David Bollier, Silke Helfrich, and many others, commons are now being seen as a viable alternative to capitalism, one which puts the well-being of the planet and humans above financial gain. Puts the well-being of the planet and humans above financial gain. That is so solar punk. Oh, thanks. Commons are an ancient practice. Cooperation is a natural byproduct of humans coexisting. Yet somehow they've all but disappeared since the 17th century. Not all of them, and thankfully new ones are emerging. Who here has edited a Wikipedia page? It's hard to see in the audience. Oh, wow, okay, like 50%. Wow, that's amazing. Good on all of you. Congratulations, you've participated in a commons. Wikipedia is a great example of a knowledge commons. It's a resource, a community, and a set of rules. And in this case, elaborate governance rules for editing. Here are some others you may or may not be aware of. Natural resource commons, digital commons, urban commons, cultural commons, even economic commons. And some examples to get you thinking like a commoner and be aware of the commons that are all around us. When we look, we can see them everywhere. Open source software, open access scientific journals, community currencies, seed and biodiversity preservation. In the last few minutes, I'd like to introduce you to one emerging commons. We at Common Stack conceived, researched, developed, and deployed cultural and technical protocols that together comprise a new kind of commons. A Web3 native commons that incorporates technical protocols designed to be regenerative and participatory, and cultural protocols that weave into the fabric of the Commons DAO, Elinor Ostrom's 8 principles for managing commons. The token engineering community was the first to deploy these technical and cultural protocols for a commons. The mission of the TEC is to advance token engineering. The Token Engineering Commons has funded over 200K of token engineering projects, research, education, open source systems, initiatives like the Token Engineering Academy, Proposal Inverter, Gravity DAO, Consilience Library, and many more. But most importantly, the token engineering community, the Token Engineering Commons, has built a large, active, and engaged community, and that is what commonings is all about. A community stewarding a shared resource under a set of agreed rules. And now we've just started working hand in hand with Grassroots Economics, a nonprofit foundation that focuses on community development through economic empowerment. Specifically, through economic commons with instruments like vouchers that can act as a medium of exchange and become community inclusion currencies. They've implemented community currency programs in over 45 locations across Kenya, 2 in South Africa, and over 60,000 local businesses, schools, and churches, to help them take an active role in their economy and the development of their economy. Looking at our mission and their mission, it's plain to see how well aligned we are. Common Stack's mission is to enable communities to design and develop our own microeconomies that reward the creation of public goods. Grassroots Economics' vision is to see a world where communities are in control of their own financial instruments as an essential ingredient for economic liberty and empowerment. This Commons will support the vision and continued on-the-ground efforts of grassroots economics, important work like lifting entire villages out of poverty in a sustainable way. Create a Commons DAO to decentralize governance and decision-making and funding options for where the funds should go, which villages, and what type of infrastructure proposals. And align the individual benefit with collective benefit, and that's the magic of the Commons design. And in escaping the duopoly of market and state thinking. In parting, I want to only ask that you and all of us retrain your brain. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you catch yourself thinking about profit in ways bigger than monetary value, and that we together go beyond market and states. Thank you. I still have about 4 minutes, so I don't know if there's questions anyone wants to ask. No questions? Okay, we have a question here. Excellent.
I don't need a mic really for this. Are you going to share the slides?
Yes, it would be my pleasure. If you follow me on Twitter, I will share them on Twitter. Thank you for asking.
Okay, Miss, you are really amazing. You are the first. I'm from China, and you know the crypto world in China. So you are the first one related with the real world with this blockchain, whatever. So I get one question. Do you, with your experiences and knowledge, do you know the most successful the common? What is the most successful touching you? The example.
The most successful commons?
Yes, yes. Anywhere in the world, because this is something I want to try to do next. Yeah.
I think that there's, there's commons. There's water irrigation commons in New Mexico that's been around since the 1600s. There actually are commons everywhere. I mean, grassroots economics is a great example. The community inclusion currencies that are deployed in local villages create a commons of these local villages, an economic commons, where funding can come in to a area with no economic activity, no businesses, no employment, where dozens of people, or 100, 200 people, have no viable opportunity for economic growth. And donations that come into these villages are converted into these community inclusion currencies. And so that economic value stays in the community. These currencies can't go to the local largest village or the capital of the country to be spent outside the village. So an economic commons is a really good example. Yeah, I mean, look, I have to credit a lot of my current thinking with all of the work by David Bollier, Thinking Like a Commons, Beyond States and Markets. The collection of essays is really great. And in Elinor Ostrom's seminal work, Governing the Commons, she has really, really meticulous details about the commons that she studied. She was on the ground doing field research for decades. Yeah, and I'd love to connect with you and talk more afterwards. So yeah, okay. Okay, 1 minute. Any last questions? Oh, yeah, I see somebody there.
So there's one thing that, hey, it's Dan. So there's one thing that always comes to mind. Like when we talk about these commons, there's always something about like, for me, there's a big difference between thinking from human centricity. So I'm really curious about what you see are the limits and risks of human centricity in designing these commons. Particularly, I always talk about how are we going to scale humanity as a multiplanetary species. I mean, if we do it human-centric, for me, it's an existential risk beyond any bounds. So, anyway.
And that's a great question, Dan. Thanks for asking. I think that when we look at individual profit and we put individual profit above mutual aid, we are creating the society that we're living in now. And by looking at profit and value and prices in terms of relational, generational, cultural, we'll naturally move away from the transactional, individualistic relationships and societies that we're building. Okay, thanks everybody.